Please, the debat, the Honourable Member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm glad to join this debate. This is an opportunity to, I think, for parliamentarians to just hear about some of the dysfunction that is existing at committees, and it's at the hands, largely, of chairs, and probably in some cases the PSs that carry the government's water on committee, but chairs' inability to manage their committees. And so I'm going to talk about the Finance Committee. And, you know, we've heard a lot from members opposite that claim Conservatives are filibustering at committees to obstruct bills. Well, I hear I'm being heckled by the member for Winnipeg North, and it maybe he doesn't know that it is actually his own caucus colleagues that have filibustered C4 at the Finance Committee. But I'm going to get to that maybe and take this in order. This committee formed and began in the spring. We had a chair who has demonstrated a disregard for the rules of committee, who does not follow the practice and procedure according to our Green Book that spells out proper practice and procedure. On June 16th and June 16th, gaveling out a meeting without the consent of members. I brought to her attention that this is not permitted. Sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt myself and point out, Mr. Speaker, I am, of course, sharing my time with the member from Edmonton West Edmonton Mall. And if I may, so at this committee, you know, we pointed out repeatedly the rules of committee, and that from the Green Book, page 1099, the committee chair cannot adjourn the meeting without the consent of a majority of the members. This is a rule of committee that I have found in the debate today around this, that the chair of finance is not the only committee chair, Liberal chair, governing party caucus chair, that gavels out meetings when the going gets tough for their side or if they just feel like stopping a meeting. So I bring that to the House's attention that the rules of committee are not being followed. We have on at the Finance Committee on October 22nd, when the governing party members were filibustering their own bill, obstructing C4, a bill that Conservatives and other members of the House actually did support and voted for in the House and referred to committee for study. We spent that entire meeting debating a single NDP amendment that had been brought with the members of the Liberals, in particular the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Finance, asking repeated vexatious questions of the officials present in order to prolong the meeting and to prevent it from coming to a vote. Now, it wasn't clear to us at the time. Have they just not read the amendments and they're just treading water? Are they waiting for their higher-ups to tell them what to do? Are they waiting for their whip's office or the PMO to give them word about how to vote on these amendments? Did they not do their homework? Did they not have a pre-committee meeting? Did they not take this meeting seriously and are just blathering to prevent business from occurring? I don't know, Mr. Speaker. I never will. But I do know that that meeting was also gavelled out while the parliamentary secretary for the Minister of Finance was literally in the middle of asking an official a question. So it was the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. We've got officials present who are doing their jobs, answering questions of members of committee, and the chair gavels the meeting out while her own parliamentary secretary is asking a question. We returned the following Monday. Again, the governing party members spent 110 minutes, Mr. Speaker, filibustering, again, their own bill, C4, that on the one hand we got the member for Winnipeg North coming into the chamber, you know, in debate saying, hey, why can't we get this bill advanced? Well, you can't get it advanced because your own members wouldn't let it advance at committee. I had to be the voice of reason, Mr. Speaker, at that meeting and suggest, we withdrew some proposed amendments of our own But, you know, they weren't the source of the log jam, Mr. Speaker. We hadn't even come to those yet. We eventually, you know, talked the Liberals into allowing the other amendments that other parties had proposed to come to a vote, which they did. And we managed to get through C4 and report it back to the House. But no thanks to any of the Liberals, Mr. Speaker. I mean, did any member of that committee approach other parties and ask to maybe sit down informally and discuss what our priorities are, see if we can negotiate a resolution to the different motions? I mean, this is how adults solve problems, Mr. Speaker, and it has not been present on that committee. And you know what? I don't blame the three new MPs on that committee. They all seem to be reasonable people. But I do have to ask why the chair and the parliamentary secretary come into every meeting, you know, just unable to work with other members of other parties. You know, so we got through that. October 29th, we had a meeting with the parliamentary budget officer. We had a committee chair completely inconsistently enforce the rule of relevance on one side but not the other. Toward the end of that meeting, we had kind of a blow up with the parliamentary secretary and the parliamentary budget officer. That was quite something. It was not a credit to him. I can assure you of that. But you know, then on November 19th, with witnesses present, toward the end of the meeting, but with time on the clock, the block member on our committee, the block vice chair, that being the only time that he would have had the floor, introduced a routine motion that we could have dispensed with very quickly, or even moved to adjourn debate on it and return to our witnesses. But no, the Liberals, the parliamentary secretary, in fact, filibustered out that meeting until I think it was 8:30 in the evening before then agreeing to adopt it. I mean, it's just bizarre, Mr. Speaker, the dysfunction, and to no purpose, for no apparent strategy or goal. I just don't even understand it, Mr. Speaker. But what we have seen on the Finance Committee is an entire lack of cooperation, not for lack of willingness, Mr. Speaker. I don't know how many times I've said on the record at the committee and urged the chair to hold a steering committee where her vice chairs can come, present their agendas, talk about the motions that they have put on notice, and they can, with the cameras off, they can discuss what potential business of the committee ahead and plan a schedule and a work plan. And this is how committees that are strong and functional and do good work together, and through the process of maybe a bit of disagreement, but collegial disagreement, can forge better policy and better outcomes and produce better reports and better legislation for Canadians. But that's not happening at Finance. And we have seen of late a fixation from the Liberals who have proposed motions to pre-study the Budget Implementation Act. And you know, pre-studying legislation, that's not normally how it's done. There is a motion before this House to refer that bill to the Finance Committee upon its adoption in this House. And that's the correct order to do things. But, you know, Mr. Speaker, if they had a particular reason, or if there was a negotiation that they wanted to have over this, I'm sure we could have it. That's what a subcommittee is for. So we've seen the chair cancel meetings twice in the last couple of weeks. We've seen her schedule only 1 hour instead of 2 when witnesses weren't available. The second hour could have been devoted to a subcommittee where these issues could be worked out so that the committee could function together more properly. So, Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this debate and the report that is before the House is to examine the efficacy of committee, and I'm sad to report that it's not going all that well at Finance, and I put the blame fully with the chair and the parliamentary secretary, neither of whom ever reach out to members to encourage working together to cooperate and have a work plan.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the member is aware. You know, years ago, the Conservative Party actually developed a book on how to obstruct committee work. And I'm wondering if you might want to just reflect on that. I don't know if they've brought the book back. I suspect they have. The current leader was a part of the former book. Maybe it might be an updated, more modern book. But I'm wondering if you could just share with the House, does the Conservative Party still have that book? Has it been updated? What is the status of that book that was meant to disturb and disrupt the standing committees?
Honourable Member for Calgary
Speaker,
Crawford.
I've been here for 10 years and I have no idea about this book. What I do know, a couple of things though. If he had listened to my speech, he would note that it is entirely his caucus obstructing the work of the Finance Committee. Secondly, when it comes to the opposition leader, whom I had the privilege of serving on the Finance Committee with, I noted that there was a strong chair in Wayne Easter who could cope with strong personalities and could allow for a cohesive work plan with members that included the opposition leaders. So, you know, it's all about kind of the will of the chair.
That's right. Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires.
The Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his speech. I think that the document that the Parliamentary Secretary is referring to is the procedure and usage of the House of Commons. There's a fourth edition that has just come out. But more seriously, I'm no longer a regular member of the Standing Committee on Finance, but I appreciate my colleague from Mirabel who is. And there was a filibuster for more than 2 hours, an hour and a half, from the Parliamentary Secretary. Why? Because the Liberal members, who are a minority, want absolutely to do a pre-study on the BIA before it's voted here on second reading here at the House, and they refuse another study in the meantime on the CRA and all of the issues we're seeing right now. And I'd like to know what my honourable colleague thinks about this, who I had the pleasure to sit with at the Finance Committee.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Crowfoot.
Well, I thank him for the question, and yes, that's exactly what has happened. He was there for the filibuster that the Parliamentary Secretary undertook, and yeah, they don't want to study anything else. They were fixated on pre-studying the BIA, so they can go, 18 or 20 months without tabling a budget, and then all of a sudden, the Budget Implementation Act has to be pre-studied, even when they're still amending it in the House. I mean, the same Parliamentary Secretary was pushing for a pre-study at Finance while he's tabling amendments to the bill in the House. They haven't even got it straight in the House. So why don't we wait until we get it voted on in the House? If it's the will of the House to approve the BIA and refer it to the committee, then the committee will study it.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I listened to my colleague from Calgary's speech, and I think in one of his answers he really hit the nail on the head. And he said, maybe it's because there's such weak Liberal chairs at committee. I remember when I was in government in Saskatchewan, I always thought it was the government's job to make sure that their legislative agenda got passed and not slough it off and whine and complain that the opposition isn't making it easy enough to get our job done. So I'd like him to reflect a little bit more, not only on the Finance Committee, but perhaps the other committees, that the weakness of the Liberal chair is allowing disorder and making sure that the studies are taking place. And also the fact that many chairs aren't even calling meetings in the first place. Is that part of the problem of not getting legislation passed?
Honourable Member for Calgary Crowfoot.
Well, this government, I mean, I've been here for its 10 years, and they are terrible at managing their legislative agenda. And when it comes to committees, I'm very disappointed what I've learned during this debate about dysfunction at a number of committees, not just at the Finance Committee. So, yes, the member is absolutely right. The government, if the government is competent, it should have a legislative plan at each stage, and to be able to manage their own agenda, and this government doesn't.